Welcome. This is Diego Accord here, and the ramblings of a bored guy. So, what I'm going to talk about today is going to be, um, it's going to be a gaming video, and it's going to be my experience in fighting games because it was my top genre. The Xbox 360 generation kind of made that not be the case anymore, and I'll talk about why. So, I've always played a bunch of different genres, and fighting games were a main staple for a long time. And when I got into gaming, into video games, um, it was right before fighting games took off, like right before Street Fighter Two, or around the time of Street Fighter Two. But I wasn't old enough to know what this was until a couple years later. Like I really wouldn't know what Street Fighter 2 was until about 93, 92, and then got pretty good at it, doing the little two in the ones and stuff like that, like all those early basic techniques, and then start learning like more game specific stuff like doing kick, like with in turbo and or hyper fighting, whatever one you want to call it. With the Shotos, you can do like the jump kick into the hurricane kick, air hurricane kick, and like stuff like that. You know, Learning that stuff pretty early on, and then other games were out there, and pretty much during the 16-bit era, so many Street Fighter clones uh, and Mortal Kombat clones were out there, and of course we played the real games, Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, but being kids who only just wanted to play whatever, we also played the hell out of any clones. It didn't matter what the game was. If it had two people fighting, even if, back then, we didn't know what unplayable was. Because there are some games, you go back now, and it's like, fuck, how was that ever playable? Which, it wasn't. But, we didn't care. Generally, we played, me and my buddy, I'm not going to name any names, but he did have a decent amount of Street Fighter 4 fame. We both are around the same age. We both been playing games, like fighting games, for around the same time. But at some point, like when I started driving, um, our interests diverged from that kind of stuff. He kept with that, and I didn't care about gaming in general as much, especially not fighting games. Um, and then, like I said, the 360 era would really change what I do with in gaming now. So anyway, we played all the combat clones, all the Street Fighter rip-offs, everything. Finding anything that would make a game deep, like a game that you shouldn't be playing deeply. We did. And also, there was no elitism like back then. It was just the fucking 90s. Of course, whatever was in the arcade was in the arcade, which was just mainly Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat. You found like some Neo Geo stuff every so often, but mainly Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and nobody knew how to play the SNK games anyway. And I think because of the arcade layout, the button layout probably stopped most people. Because first time that I played on a arcade Neo Geo cap that had like buttons that regular people would want to use, quote unquote regular people, was SVC Chaos. The arcade that had that, they just had the buttons, they had two punches and two kicks instead of, Neo Geo is like four buttons. It's like the light punch button is lower. It's lower and to the left, and then light kick. Then it's a row of three buttons. So it's like the first button is fucking to the left and lower than everything else, like on the same arc as a standard Japanese six button layout. But then it's just like instead of three, it's just four. But they are weird. It's like jab or light punch, light kick, then heavy punch and heavy kick, and like that is fucking strange as fuck to try to play with. But this arcade cab, I mean, it wasn't like a standard Neo Geo cab, so they didn't have the button set up like that. It was just like punches on tops, kicks on bottoms, and that made a lot more sense. Like I said, I had a Neo Geo home system briefly, but I only had one fighting game for it. And since the games were $500, the games that I got with it were the only games I was ever gonna have. So anyway, got real heavy into the fighting games, like wanting to know way more advanced stuff. Like as time goes on, CPS2 games come out. You got your Street Fighter Alpha, because that was the first time. Like Alpha was the first Street Fighter that had a home practice mode. So that's when you can really dig in and polish everything up. So I mean that's at a time when I'm able to go to the arcade and rack up 20 plus wins and shit like that. I'm just like getting polished, and then you had people printing stuff out. Yeah, X-Men Street Fighter was the next big thing. Our arcade didn't get Alpha 2 for some reason. It went from Alpha 1 to X-Men. They got other games, and this was on a showcase cab, like a real big cab that everybody just hovers around because it's big as fuck. And then, they had other games on other, like the little regular size cabs, American cabs, of course. Like Darkstalkers would be on that, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men, Coda, shit like that would be on there. Old Street Fighter games would be on there. Um, but I mean, it was fun times. And we'd be playing the PlayStation conversions of the CPS2 games, and they would be shitty as hell, but it'd be like okay enough, like decent enough, but not really. Um, so I mean, those were fun times. I mean, the arcade that we had, a Namco arcade called Time Out on the Court. I mean, that was the fucking most fun shit ever. Those were best times. The games were fun, the times were fun, the people were fucking good. And it's crazy, like, we're talking about 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago now at this point. And there are people that are still around. Because what happened was there is now an arcade, like in the same place, like this mall. It's almost a dead mall. Well, it is a dead mall that this arcade was in. It was a bustling mall at this time in the 90s. And then, like all malls, it just kind of fucking withered away. And a guy opened up an arcade literally in the same place that the mall used to have its arcade. He opened it up in the mall, the same mall, but instead of the mall being full of stores, he's like literally one of two places open in this whole mall. But his arcade, he caters to fighting game people, does tournaments. There's been like major tournaments with major people, like Justin Wong and all them has been there. And, his arcade is literally in the same place that the original arcade was in, which is cool, but, it's a different time now. So anyway, in in 2000, like right after Marvel 2 came out, you know, our, you know, our best mall, which is that mall, it died. The mall that had Time Out in the court, it fucking, Time Out went away. They opened up another little thing a couple years later called Wonder Park, which it got shut down after some people some supervisors that were working there touching kids or something. It was also ran by Namco, like the original one was, but it wasn't catered to that kind of stuff. So some people from the original thing showed up because they did have a cabinet or two of fighting games, but well, and but it was what it was. And then we had another arcade called Tilt. I know, if you know fighting games, there are, there have been tilts. There possibly are tilts still in existence. I don't know. Don't really care. But the other place to play fighting games was Tilt, and it stayed a little bit longer. Like I said, it stayed in probably until around 2003 ish, 2004, and that's the place that had SVC Chaos because that game came out in like '03. And that was like the last place. And then after that, you had to go to like random ass game tournaments at like game stores, or if somebody, you ran into somebody that you knew from arcade days, and they're like, "Hey man, we have get-togethers, or we just hang out and play fighting games all night." And that kind of is how that happens. Um, that would be your experience for like those years after arcades were completely dead. And, fighting games were like dead. I mean, some games still came out, but nothing of like real note because we're talking about the time period with the PS2 Mortal Kombat games. Like the like I didn't play any of those. You had CFE, Capcom Fighting Evolution. Like fuck, like Tekken was always decent. I know people didn't like Tekken 4, but Tekken 5 held it down for a long time. But yeah, I mean, fighting games were like kind of dead for a couple of years. You know, everybody playing some legacy stuff, and that was it until Street Fighter 4 came out. Now we got our little scene, our local scene. We got something a little bit before Street Fighter 4. Maybe around '06 ish or so. We kind of got a thing going together. We have our things at people's house, and you know, the main games that would be played would be some Tekken and some Hyper Street Fighter 2. Because that was the easiest way to play. It's like some ST or something close to ST, and whatever. But we were really stuck to what was just on home consoles because no arcades existed, and that was a good time. And then this guy, like I said, he opened his arcade. He wasn't initially in the same spot as the original arcade, but when this place opened, a lot of people came around from then that we hadn't seen in fucking almost 10 years by now, and that was cool. And then we were playing games. A couple new games would come out, like the original Blaze Blue. I think that came out before Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 4 and all that shit. So I remember actually I had a modded Xbox and I brought that game. I brought that game to the arcade. Play that shit like a month early, and then Street Fighter 4 came out. Man, I fucking hated Street Fighter 4. I did not like what it did. Like, I was hyped for it because, at this point, the last Street Fighter game that came out was Third Strike, and that was 1998. And here we go, a decade without a Street Fighter game, unless you count Hyper Street Fighter 2. Um, but, that game kind of, you know, It was just, it did not play like Street Fighter to me. Like you could do some, like, oh, you think just because it's got, it's got Shotos and some of the stuff that you would normally do in Street Fighter works. Like it never felt like Street Fighter to me. Like there was something always off about it, but I didn't know what it was. And then, I found out later what these things were. Like, the input delay. Like that shit's not in the old games. Like, it's in that. It's in Street Fighter 4. Because it's like, I always felt like, man, shit does not happen immediately. Like when I press a button, it feels like this game is under fucking water. Like I didn't know how to explain it, but that's what it was. Fucking input delay that's like baked into the fucking game. So I hate that feeling because it's like there's some things like when somebody's jumping in Street Fighter 2, I'm gonna anti-air the fuck out of them. It doesn't matter what character I have. I know what to do when to do it. And in Street Fighter like 4 and 5 for that matter, if I see somebody doing something like jumping, I'm like, I'm not even like I know that like man I should anti-air this son of a bitch, but like I'm not even ready all the time to just do it on reaction because I feel like if I try to do it, I'm gonna get beaten out possibly. Like it's not gonna happen immediately. Like he's in the air jumping in, like I should just have whatever attack ready to go. Like if I'm playing Street Fighter Alpha, I'm gonna do a medium punch. Like if I'm a Shoto, in Street Fighter Alpha, their standard medium punch. I'm gonna use that to anti-air, possibly depending on the hitbox where they are in relation to me. Medium punch. If I have if they're farther away, if I have Ken, I can use his standard medium kick. If I have Ryu or Kuma, I can use their standing fierce. Whatever, or crouching fierce a lot. But like in those like Street Fighter 4 and 5, just how muddy those games feel. Like I don't feel confident in doing like anti-airs like that often, like every time. Like I know I should do it. So that was a thing. And then there's like some stuff like the corner cross ups. Like why the fuck can you be crossed up in the corner? I'm like, all right, fuck this game. And then there was the fact that since it was the new shit, like everybody that was originally playing like other stuff, whatever was available to play, of course everybody's just like, we're only playing Street Fighter 4. So if you want to come around to even think about playing something else, like you're wasting your time pretty much. So I really stopped playing fighting games. And then they came up with Marvel 3, and I wasn't a fan of that. Marvel 2, fucking one of the best games of all times. And I fuck with all of the Marvel series. Like, I know how to play fucking Coda. Nobody knows how to play fucking Coda. I know how to play that fucking shit. And of course, in every other versus game, I know pretty much everything there is to know. Every infinite with every character, where to be on the screen, what to do in whatever situation. I mean, I know if you have a move that rushes towards me with a certain, with certain characters or whatever, I know I can push block you once and then I can like literally throw you out of that move. Like you try to rush me or you try to cheese me with like Chun-Li's Senretsu, push block that shit once and you get that opening where you can fucking throw that bitch out of it. Shore Europa, fucking push block it once. You can do whatever you want to during the second time he's going up. Fucking do your own DP, do your own super, throw him, whatever you want to do. Juggernaut head crush. So like that is how much I know about that game. You might not even know what I'm talking about, but like those games all the way back from Coda. Now I don't know everything in Coda. I only know some characters because I know you can do some stupid shit in Coda with a lot of characters, but I don't know how to play all the characters. I know how to play all the characters in all the other games, but I never had a reason to need to know a lot of stuff in Coda. But either way, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know those fucking games like the back of my fucking hand, but I'm not a fan of Marvel 3. I know how to play it just because I know how to play fighting games. But I hate that shit as much as I hate Street Fighter 4. And because, like I said, that was also after that game came out, and then of course Ultimate Marvel, you you couldn't play anything else. I mean, some Tekken you could play. You know, Mortal Kombat 9 had its time, and that was a fun game. Fucking better than 10 and 11. Um, Tekken's though, you know, Tekken's and Mortal Kombat's they get their times. You got some people that would like locally they would come from a couple hours away. They have to come from Columbus. They would play anime games. So I mean, if you want to play some Guilty Gear, some Arcana Heart, or some random other fucking anime shit, they would be who you'd play with. Um, you know, it was funny because they had this, you know, they had this one guy that was like their fucking top dog. He could not beat me in Skullgirls. When any local people try to play him in that, they couldn't really deal with him. Because I mean, he had the combos set up because he was an anime player, so he had his combos were always on point. But like Skullgirls, you can't just go into I'm gonna automatically air dash and you know win as soon as I get a hit, like because you can kind of play Skullgirls like a Marvel-ish game, which means your characters, you know, your assists, like all that shit matters. Because I mean, I know, um, I remember he was trying to use like that double before they nerfed that assist, and that double assist was fucking ridiculous. You really couldn't do shit about it. So he was just one of those like, use double assist and get a hit. But you know, I had my own stuff, my own play style from actually playing fucking Marvel games, which you know they didn't play in the past. You know, they never played Marvel, so I had to be the fucking lone crusader on that, not Marvel and not I mean, pretty much anything that was like not Marvel and not Street Fighter 4. Like, if anybody was gonna beat some out of towners in anything that was not those games, it had to be fucking me because I was the only one ever trying to play any of that shit. Um, but that kind of stopped me from really like wanting to take part, like, because you know I was going there to the arcade, you know, the new arcade with the new scene and all that stuff. I was doing that pretty religiously at first, and then I'm figuring out that like, man, these motherfuckers don't want to play anything but Street Fighter 4 and Marvel 3, so fuck them. Um, you know, so hey, fuck it. Like, hey, fuck it. I'm not into this, so I'm not gonna waste my time going because if I try to play anything else, I'm gonna be sitting here in training mode in whatever game I play, so it's not worth my time in going. Which you know, it's crazy because you know when a game would come out, if any game would come out, including Street Fighter, like when Super Street Fighter came out, I entered the tournament for that. It was a new character only tournament. I won that shit just because I play games like, you know, the newer scene. You know, people that like they'll get good at a game, but they gotta have like, you know, all that information in front of them. And you know, I understand all the information that they're looking at. You know, frame data, all that bullshit. I know what it is. I know how to use it. But like, there's still something about like when you just got it. Like you put a game in front of me, any fucking fighting game whatsoever, even if it's something that's deemed like unplayable. Like I said, me and my buddy used to fucking have serious matches in games that did not deserve serious matches. And nowadays, even if you play some little $5 indie fighter, it's probably going to be legit because people, you know, the people that make these games are a fan of fighting games, so they always try to introduce things or, you know, like use ideas from previous games and they know what's playable and what's not playable. Because even like dollar game, I know fucking way too much about what's this damn Battle High. It's a $1 game on Xbox and Steam. I had matches in that against somebody too, of all things. But like if it's a fucking fighting game, I know it, or I'll be able to pick up on how it's played or how it should be played very fucking fast. So, but anyway, like I said, with those games, I did not really want to play those main games of that generation, so I started playing other shit. And I just did not give a fuck about fighting games. I started playing WRPGs, and that really took over as to what I fucking play now. The last generation, the PS4 era, it got better because more companies were making stuff out, or were making more games. Now, what happened is, there were some games, right? HDR, Street Fighter HDR, HD Remix, Super Turbo was like the first game where I was like, man, this game is shitty. Like it looked shitty. I didn't like the soundtrack. It looked bad in animation, which everybody kind of agreed. Like the amount of animation doesn't match the way that they drew the characters. And then also the gameplay changes, like that. One guy made all these gameplay changes based on his what happened to him in tournaments. Like, oh, I sucked against this, so I'm gonna nerf this, and I think this should be better, so I'm gonna make this better. Just on his own fucking personal pet project. And then everybody later on, I'm the hater because I prefer the regular way. And then pretty much after a couple of weeks, everybody else is like, oh, yeah, that game's shitty. I don't want to play it. Bad changes, looks shitty. I was saying this shit at first, and then Street Fighter 4 took a long ass time, but people started saying that shit. But it took years because it was the main game, it was the main showcase, and everyone, yeah, I mean, I was playing it because it was the main game. But you didn't have to. But I mean, I get it, but it really it made me not really fuck with anybody. Like, well, I mean, you can play that, whatever. But now you admit, like, oh, yeah, I mean, it has input delay, which it's got this, it's got that. I'm like, that shit that I was saying that I hated about that game when it was the hot shit. But like, you can now admit that it had those issues and that you didn't like those issues. You now are willing to admit that because it's not the fresh game now. So, oh yeah, we want to go play some old stuff. Like, you know, there was a uh, there was a big tournament, and me and one guy, we were playing Darkstalkers. We played like 100 matches of Darkstalkers in the hotel room before this tournament. And then what's funny is Darkstalkers. I'm like, man, that's a good game. People should be playing. And you know, a couple years later, because that was when Street Fighter was at its biggest. It was like fucking '09 or something, if I remember correctly. Because I think Daigo was making his first trip to America outside of Evo at that tournament. I got to fight him. I almost beat him. I mean, these were casuals, but I almost beat him. But since I didn't play, and this was in Super 4, and since I didn't play the game, there was something that I did not know that you could do that would have won me the match. And that was, I won the first round. And then the second round was almost at the end. It was close, and I knocked him down. It was Ryu mirror match, of course. And I knocked him down. He was in the corner, and I hit him with crouch and medium in the EX fireball. And I had Ultra. Now, I did not know that you could, like, link into Ultra after the crouching fireball and the EX in the corner. I didn't know this. That would have won me the match. I would have beat Daigo even in a little exhibition where he just sat down and started playing, and I'm like, well, fuck, I don't want to play him in this. I'd rather play him in like Super Turbo, but I get to play him in a game, so I'm gonna fucking do this. Now, even though that was the situation, if I would have beat him in that, like, you would not have heard the end of it because I hated the game. And if I'd have beat him, which nobody else like did, as far as I know, um, like not in the tournament or I don't know about any casuals, but um, with me feeling the way that I do about that game, man, you would not hear the end of that shit, like even today. But if only I knew that one little fucking thing. It doesn't matter how not important that match was. It would have been important to me because I fucking hate Street Fighter 4, and I would have beat the best in the world at it at that time. And I wouldn't like the locals who like, man, yeah, you fucking hater. I would never like, I beat Daigo, you fucking didn't, you son of a bitch. And I'm better than, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, innately, I'm better at games than most of them anyway, because, like I said, if a new game comes out, I'm always gonna, like, fucking win the tournament. Like the fucking day one tournament, or, you know, if the game comes out Tuesday, I mean, usually the game come out on Tuesday, the tournament's like fucking Thursday or something, like when I was off, when the schedules lined up, and I would win that shit anyway. Um, but you know, of course, you know, with time, like I'm not gonna play like in that, especially in that generation, Xbox 360 generation, or even the PlayStation 4 last gen, with fighting games that were not, you know, the big ticket. There wasn't a reason for me to continue to play the game because I wasn't going to get matches after that. So it's just a waste of time when there's other games to be played. Like I said, Xbox 360 generation got me into Fallout, Fable, Elder Scrolls, Mass Effect, Saints Row, so much fucking shit. So it's like if fighting games aren't doing it for me in the way that I want to be, you know, the way that I want to be playing them, I got all these other fucking options. I don't need fighting games. Like I said, the last generation, you know, PS4 generation was a little bit better because people were kind of over Capcom's dick. So if other companies made decent fighting games, people, you know, these same people would actually give them a chance now. So that was good. So you know, I still got a bunch of PS4 fighting games. I got a PS5 now, so playing them on BC mode. And the game I'm actually playing the most, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. So you know, the game was developed by people that played Marvel 2. And, you know, in its gameplay, you can tell that they definitely took the Marvel 2 and Marvel 3 and other anime game influences for that game. And it's fun. I played Clockwork in it. I beat him. You know, he was one of the people that helped develop the game. Justa Wong was one as well. Um, but I think he fell off like real quick. I guess he wasn't interested after the product came out. But like maybe he should think about coming back to it because that game was super basic. There's a lot of stuff you can do now that you couldn't do when the game came out. Like they've been updating that game. And you know, see, here's the thing. My thing about fighting games as well for those two generations is like this: either you play a mainline game that you don't want to play and or it has shitty ass net code, or if you want to play a game that you do want to play, you gotta fucking it's gotta be a Discord fighter. So you gotta set that shit up and you know, motherfucker, you like, 8:37 p.m. Fucking CST. Like you gotta do all that to get a match in a game that you do want to play. So it's like, is it worth playing fighting games if this is it? Like, I gotta play Street Fighter Five, which to me inherently had a lot of the same problems as Street Fighter Four, but actually even more. You know, at first I thought it was a little bit better, but actually it could be worse than Street Fighter 4 because I mean you got to do crush counter and the specific combos that you should always do, so it just never looks exciting to play. Um, but anyway, That's, it's just what it is. So as I was saying, Battle for the Grid being like a new Marvel 2-ish game. I mean, it's got bullshit. It's definitely got bullshit that they really need to take out. Um, I might do a video about this game because it is the fighting game I'm playing the most. But it's the game, like it's the one game that does not fall into those categories that I was saying, where you're playing a mainline game, you can get as many matches as you want, but it's got shitty ass net code, or you just don't want to play it because you got the main games, you get like Soul Calibur, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter. Marvel's not really, you know, Infinite is fucking dead. I don't even know about 3. But, I mean, Tekken, fun. Doesn't have, like, the greatest net code. I don't fucking play Soul Calibur. Mortal Kombat 11, it's not the most fun game. They can't seem to recapture what they had. Everybody likes 10 better than 11. 10 might, like, I didn't play that much, but I had fun with it. I had more fun with that than 11. I like Jackie in 11 because, all that cancel shit she's got and all that stuff. And I actually used her in the previous game because of the keep away. So, but Mortal Kombat 9, man, that was a fucking game, though. Like, that shit was, yeah, 10 and 11 do not compare to 9. Now, if they would re-release, like, if they could make a game that played like 9, now they would still have to do something. Like, their fucking combo buffering, their string buffering and all that shit, they have to fucking do something about that. Like, I don't want to have to press my buttons like 2 moves in advance or do my cancels, special cancels. Like, you don't get to choose if you want to. Like, you gotta do the follow through no matter what. You gotta choose it beforehand. You can't just say like, "Oh, I'd rather." Okay, let me delay this, or it's just not gonna come out if you try to delay it. Like in Tekken, you can delay a lot of strings, or even single attacks that have multiple parts, like the Mishima's down forward 4-4. Like you can just do it, 4-4, or you can just do it 4-4, because they might try to interrupt and then they might get counter hit because they try to do something. But in Mortal Kombat, you can't do that. I've hated that since MK9. That's been a thing since 9. It's in 10, 11, and Injustice 1 and 2. I fucking hate that. I wish they would get rid of it. But 9 was definitely fun. But again, like the main thing I was saying at that time, though, you got, it's got good online play, but I don't really want to play Mortal Kombat 11. Power Rangers is the only game that I can just get on. I can play. I don't have to fucking, I don't have to get on a Discord server to try to find matches in that shit. I can turn the game on at any time and find matches. And it's also a game I want to play. Whereas other, pretty much anything else that's out right now, if I did want to play it, I got to find some Discord server to find like one person playing that game ever, or I can just play some mainline game that I just might not really want to play, but I'll have matches. So if I turn Street Fighter 5 on, I'll have matches, but I don't want to fucking play that shit. So Power Rangers has delivered me from that. But like I said, it has its own bullshit. Like some of the cancels that you can do. I mean, you can literally just make unblockable situations like as much as you want. If you got a character that has a fucking overhead, like you can swap out your characters anytime during any part of an attack, any attack or any part of an attack. So you have something that hits low or hits overhead, and then you just cancel, bring out another character, and just have them doing a low attack while that overhead's still going from your previous character. And it's literally unblockable. What can you do about it? And since it's the kind of game that it is with combos and all this stuff, like you would be in a block string being forced to block this stuff while everything is happening to you. So, I mean, you would get opened up. It's just, fuck you. That's all, it's just basically, fuck you, buddy. So, yeah, that's how it is. So, I mean, that's where I'm at in fighting games right now. I mean, I have pretty much everything that you can get a hold of, even, like a couple, well, games that you probably, I mean, I got SNK Heroin. Shit, I bought that shit. Got actually got Million Arthur Arcana Blood in Japan, and I actually was planning, like, I knew, like, I literally, like, went out to go find that game when I was there because I wanted that game just because it looked like it was a fun game to play, and then I saw that they added Yori Yagami from King of Fighters in an in a fucking in an anime game with combos and all this other shit. So I'm like, man, I definitely want that, but it was only available digital, and I fucking hate digital games. So in Japan, it's available in disc format, and since I knew I was going like soonish after that, I'm like, I'll just wait until I go there and I can get the fucking game, which was great in more than one ways because I mean, of course, getting it over there is dope, but I paid 2,000 yen for the game, which is like less than $20, and that game was $40 back then. That was like middle of 2019, and I looked at the price of that game recently because people, there was another thread. There's always threads about digital versus physical, and they've been involved in the arguments. I don't know why people argue about that shit. Like, either you want them this way or you want them that way. Like, why do you get mad if somebody else wants the game a certain way? And it's usually digital people get mad that physical people still want games physically. Like, if you, I should actually make a video about this now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, that game was $40 then, and that game is still $40 digitally. And I got that game a year and a half ago, brand new copy, sealed, not used, for $20. So digital, you're always going to be stuck to whatever the store wants to charge. And typically, if it's a console store, there has to be something special going on. Like the console stores did a deal. They did deals like when COVID started. And then you got Black Friday deals or holiday deals. That's it. You want to be paying $60 for fucking Fallout 4 still? Console stores is how you do that. So, yeah, but that's another topic. So, anyway, that I believe that's really gonna do it for for this video. Um, Now on the channel, you will see some fighting game clips from anywhere from like recent ones, which would be of Power Rangers. So you can see that, I know what the fuck I'm talking about in fighting games. And then you can see old clips that are, probably more than 10 years old by now. And you can see that I knew what the fuck I was doing back then in fighting games. Um, like I said, I've known like advanced things. I'm like not really tooting the horn because I mean, but I've known these things for a long time. I've been at the point where I know like what I'm doing, what I'm supposed to be doing, what I should be doing. Even if you're not always doing those things. I mean, like hell, there could be some times, you're playing a game, you know what to do, but you just do something stupid. Like if you get mad, like so when I have to play on sticks because I don't like Japanese sticks. But sometimes I'm forced to play on them, and if I can't do SPDs, I can't do like fucking super moves, double move supers. I can't do, you know, nice close, those little close fucking knuckle grinning or that's it, knuckle grinning. I don't know what the fuck that is, but those like um, fucking skin of your teeth. Sure, you can like DP reversals and shit like that. I can't do any of that shit on fucking Japanese arcade sticks. So if I miss something that I should have gotten or I would have gotten if I was on a pad or an American stick, I'll do shit like I'll just like do DPs. Like I'll miss a DP that I should have got, and then I'll just like do DPs out of anger. Like fuck this shit. So do you can like fucking do the goddamn dragon punch, and like it'll cost you because of course you're still fighting somebody, and you just did a fucking DP from just like randomly like so stuff like that can happen. So you're not always doing what you know you should be doing at all times, but as long as you know what to do. So yeah. Like I said, just go ahead. I mean, if you want to check out some stuff, I mean, I don't have any serious matches. Everything, like the Power Ranger stuff, is going to be all online, of course. Um, and you'll see some older, I said, casuals in some certain games, but you'll pretty much see that I know how to play whatever the game is that you see me playing in the video. I mean, there's combo clips of random ass games as well. I mean, I know what the fuck I'm doing in these games. That's all I'm trying to say. So I'm not just like saying stuff. You'll see me doing combo clips in games that like there's literally no reason I should be playing these fucking games, but I'm doing combos in them. And that's hell. As a matter of fact, that kind of explains like there's some, shit like in the Avatar Fighter online. Should I know anything about that game? Probably not. Probably not. But like that was, that's 360 era. Like, I didn't want to play Street Fighter 4, so just learning combos in that. Hell, people gave me shit for knowing combos in games like Street Fighter 4. Like that was more fun than Street Fighter 4 because it had combos, it had more combos and shit like that. So I actually knew combos in that. We played that at the arcade. And people are like, why do you know combos in this? Why? Because I can. Besides, it's like you wouldn't even have a chance. Like if I played Street Fighter 4 like you do, like obviously you wouldn't even have a chance at that fucking like at beating me at that. You can beat me at Street Fighter 4 because I fucking despise playing that game. But never. If we play something on equal terms, I'll always win. So, like I said, even Street Fighter, like the fucking first Marvel 3 tournaments, I fucking won those. Mortal Kombat tournaments, won those. Street Fighter tournaments, won those. Whenever we're on equal terms, I win. It's that when you continue to play, of course, you get better, and I don't care about getting better. And in those games, I go back to my Mass Effect or whatever the fuck I'm playing. I was playing at the time. And then, we play again, and then I look like I don't know what I'm doing. Because, I mean, at this point, I don't know what I'm doing. Because just, basic knowledge of Street Fighter or whatever isn't going to, like, work by this time that like, frame trap. Yeah. So, But, yeah, that'll be it for this video. Comment, like, subscribe. And I'm also going to say if you want to challenge me on, I have, I got all the consoles. I have PC as well. Um, I'll play fighting games. I'm not really gonna play Street Fighter Five. Um, if you know how to play like that random fucking shit, if you know how to play random shit, and you just want some matches in that, I will definitely do that. Like I would add you, and we would fucking play. Um, but yeah, we'll do that. I mean, I'm down for anything except for like Street Fighter Five, Street Fighter Four, of course. Um, so yeah, just comment with your name, on whatever platform. We'll get you added, and depending on the game that you want to play, like I said, if it's like something that's just random out there kind of game, I'm gonna give that more priority over something that a lot of people play. Like if a lot of people play it, you can find somebody that probably wants to play it more than I do. Like Tekken, I love Tekken. Tekken really, they don't fuck up as far as I'm concerned, like that much. They'll come out with a character and that character will be busted at first. That's just about as bad as Tekken gets. But I'm not gonna be the first person to come playing Tekken because as great as it is, I know my characters, but I don't practice enough to know how to block everything. And Tekken, you gotta be able to block all those strings and shit. And you gotta know uh, what will stop what will crunch what, so on and so forth. So, and Tekken, just got too many DLC characters that I just have not bought. I've only bought Kunamitsu, which coincidentally is the latest DLC character. I have her and Leroy because he was ultra fucking busted when he came out. So if you didn't play him, you were just not doing yourself any favors, now were you? But yeah, just add me. I'm gonna put my name in the description. I'll put my Xbox and PlayStation same name on that, Diego Fuego. You might have fought me in something if you play games that aren't Street Fighter Five. You possibly have fought me in something. There are other ones that name, like I've seen some other ones. There's Diego Fuego 14 that keeps messaging me on PlayStation. So it could be me if you played the person in a fighting game that was not Street Fighter 5. But we'll see. We'll get you added to PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, and we'll go from there. So like, subscribe, and I actually hope that I get to fight some people in some shit. And that, like I said, that's the reason I'm doing these videos. I'm just talking about shit. But now that I'm thinking about it, like, fuck, I can get some matches and some games I want to play out of this, possibly. And like I said, you can look at any of the videos on here and see that, like, hey, if we play something, I'll have some idea of how to play it, even if it's something that I never played before. If there's a way to play it online or something, that Parsec shit or whatever, hey, I'm fucking there. All right, then, that'll do it for this video. Bye for now.